I finally got all of the correct bearing races for your inner bearing there. So we're going to go ahead and begin the install of all the bearing races here. So we have all of the hubs completely clean, free of old grease, dirt, and dust. We're going to go ahead and use our bearing race install tool here. And I believe it's this one right here. Yep. So whenever it drives it in, it's actually driving it in on this face right here. All right. And then that just keeps it centered. Comes with the handle here, so just stick it on there, use the bolt just to hold it in place. All right, so there's your install tool. And I'm just going to use a soft blow hammer to get it tapped. But what I'm going to do, I want to just tap these to get them started. And then we're going to go to my press, and I'm going to use the press to press these in. But if you don't have a press, you can just as easily use an install tool and a hammer to gently install these things, all right? So I'm just going to do that to get them started, try to get them nice and straight and even. That one was a little crooked. All right, so we're gonna move from here over to the press and press these guys in. We're back here on my electric press. Again, you do not have to use a press to install these bearing races, but since I have it, that's what I'm gonna use. But we're gonna continue to use our bearing install tool right here. That's it. Go down just till you see everything stop. So there's our first race install. We'll just keep it moving. All right, that's all four of the outer race installed. So now we can flip it over and do the same thing for our inner bearing race. That one's got the counter bore for the seal. All right, that's all of our races now installed. All right, so we're getting the bearing packer tool full of our premium red grease there. And I've got several tubes of this right there for a grease gun, so that's why I'm using this. But you can also get this in the regular size tub, so it's easy to scoop out. But I'm just using a clean paint scraper to come in here and just scoop out our grease. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this new bearing packer full. And then once you put everything together, it stays clean, and you can put it up on your shelf or in the cabinet, ready to go anytime you got to pack some bearings. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that pay attention to the grease requirements from the manufacturer. So our Timken bearings, they recommend using an NLGI number 1 or 2 grease. So if you look at, anytime you purchase your grease there, if you'll look on the back of the package, it's going to have your NLGI grade listed on here. So this one is NLGI grade number 2. All right, this is a really good quality grease that I've used for many years, and when I was working for Motion, the guys in the gearbox shop used this nearly exclusively unless a manufacturer called for a different type of grease. But it's a really good stuff. It's going to give you great service life, and it's just been a very dependable product to use. So that's what we're going to be running in our bearings. So this is just the container that holds the grease, and how this is going to work is this piece right here that looks like a piston. You see you got your holes there in the bottom. So this is going to get pushed into there. You got an O-ring that seals it, and what that's going to do is that's going to force all of the grease underneath here, okay? You got these series of holes, and once you press it down, it's going to be trying to extrude the grease out of these holes. Our bearing is going to be setting right here on top of that. We're going to set the cone on top of it. So once you push this down in there, it forces the grease up through these holes, through the bearing rollers, and then out to the outside of the bearing, okay? You just stick that on there to center up the bearing, and then you got your cap that you put on top of that, and you just use your hands to force the bearing up into the, force the grease up through the holes and into the bearing. And some people actually like to stick this in a vise to get a little bit more pressure. But this should work fine just like that. So I'm going to finish getting this filled up, and we'll go ahead and get these bearings packed. You can see the grease starting to come up through the center. All right. So we're ready to start packing some bearings. Something else important to remember anytime you're handling brand new bearings is to always keep them in the package and away from dust and dirt. Only open them up or take them out of the package whenever you're ready to install them. Now this is the one that we took out so that we could show it on video, but notice I had it stored in the box just to keep any dust off of it, okay? And they'll actually say that right on the package there to not remove until ready to install. All right, so we're gonna get a piece of lint on my glove there. Stick that down there and put the cone on the other side. And then that's going to hide it. So I'm doing it like this so that maybe we can get a little bit of this on video to see it. You can see the grease coming up on the inside of the cage there. Getting rid of some of that air in there. All right. Definitely takes some force to do it. And we're looking for the grease to come out through the rollers there. Just keep a little pressure on it. You look in there, you can see we now have a packed bearing ready to go. All right, make sure you keep your area clean. I'm actually going to do that a little bit more because I want to see a little bit more grease coming through those rollers right there. All right, and then we have a clean cloth right here that I'm going to use to set the bearings on while we get all of them packed. Here's another handy way you can use this bearing packer. If you've got your bench vise here, you can put it in there and let the vise do the hard work there. Just put a little bit of squeeze on it. Hard to see it, but it's got it packed nicely all the way around. We've got all of our bearings properly packed now. They're ready to be installed. So I'm going to go ahead and take this other side of this this towel here and just cover them up. I just want to kind of prevent any dust from settling on them. So we're going to move on to the hubs now and get them in there. First thing we need to do is go ahead and put some grease inside of the hub housings here as well. Coat the bearing races. You need to put approximately half of this cavity full of grease before we install them. All right, we're just going to go ahead and start filling our hub with the some more of our grease right here. Coating everything down to give everything a coating with grease, and it helps protect it from any kind of moisture that might build up inside of the hub there and causing corrosion. Approximately half full, coating all the bearing races down. Now we're going to go ahead and put in our inner bearing and install the oil seal. So I'm using the bearing race install tool. I've just got one of the pucks there flipped the opposite way so that it'll just sit flush on the bearing there. And once you tap it in, it'll go flush against that shoulder there, or this face I mean. Take one of our packed bearings. Get it down inside there. All right, so you got to make sure that it's positioned the right way, and it's going to be this direction, just like this. Use our driver tool here and just gently tap it home. You get one side not wanting to go, just work that side. Just like that right there. All right, move that one out. Let's do another one.
How's it going?
It's going good. You coming out to see the progress?
I am.
All right, well, we're installing the inner bearing and the grease seal right now. All right. All right, all of our inner bearings and grease seals are installed now.
It's fantastic.
So it's also important, just whenever you get the grease seals installed, go ahead and just wipe a little bit of grease on the rubber there. There's plenty of on the inside, so I'm just going to take a little bit that's inside the hub and just rub a little grease on the rubber there, just like that. That'll help lubricate it once it's installed.
So how many people are going to tell you that you did it wrong, babe?
Well, anytime you share your work on social media, it's a guarantee that somebody or many people are going to tell you you're doing it wrong in some way, form, or fashion.
And that you're an idiot?
And I'll be the first to admit that I am not a certified mechanic in no way, shape, or form.
No, you're doing great.
But I've done this stuff before, whether it be right, wrong, or different. Let's get it done. I'm doing the same thing that any mechanic would do. You got to pack the bearings, install them, knock the seal in there. So hopefully it's going to be done right. I think it will be.
Of course it will be. It looks great, baby.
So these are ready to go back on the axles now.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Almost done.
Almost. We're getting close. Still a lot of hard work left, but we're almost there. So getting everything staged ready for the install. I want to point out we've got my grease gun with the Sta-Plex in there, and I'm going to be purging the grease hole in the axles there with some fresh grease there before we install the hub. So I just want to point that out. And then we've got, these are brand new grease caps that we purchased to install, and it's advisable anytime you knock these things off to do your bearings is to replace them. They're very inexpensive to buy from the trailer supply, and usually whenever you knock them off there with the hammer, you usually end up denting them. That's why when I take them off, I'm not concerned about destroying them whenever they come off. So new dust caps, and what they say is that you should go ahead and take a little bit of grease and coat the inside of the dust cap with just a little bit of grease. And what that does is gives it some protection there against rust and corrosion after the install. So just a light coating of grease in there like that. And we'll do that for all four of them. And then one other thing I was going to show you. So this is kind of a custom tool that I made for myself to install these. Whenever you go to install these, it's important that you don't hit out here on this, because you're going to deform it if you do that. It's better to have an install tool. So what I've got this piece of tubing that I machined. This was just a drop on my shelf, 2.5 inch inside bore. So 2.5 ID tubing, and it fits directly over the dust cap just like that and goes up against the flange. So that's where you want to hit it. So you go to install it just like that, stick the tube over there, and then hit on this face there, and make sure that whenever you install it, it seats up nice and flat all the way around this flange right here. All right, so just a custom tool that I made to help me. You can certainly find the proper tools that you need to be able to help install those dust caps there. All right, so we're ready to begin the reassemble here. First thing I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and purge what's left of the grease inside the axles here, just to go ahead and clean out that older grease and make sure that we've got new Sta-Plex in there. And we're not going to be greasing these once we install them, but I do want to make sure the old grease is out of there. And you'll see it coming through the back there. See it right here. So in fact, let me I'm gonna put this rag right here so that it catches it. The way these axles are made is that once this is, everything's installed and you want to add a little extra grease, it pumps the grease directly behind the inner bearing, but between that and the grease seal. And the way that works is that the grease is going to naturally be pushed this way whenever you grease it. All right, that looks good. Trying to be careful not to get it all over the brakes there. All right, I'm going to wipe the oil off of them because we had a little bit of rain come through. And the other thing that I want to do, I'm just going to use a little bit of this grease. I'm going to go ahead and coat the axle stub with some grease. And the seal journal up in there as well. Just like that. All right, now we'll get that one done too.
Is that it?
Yep. That's
Easy.
That's the first part. Purging it's the easiest part of the whole job. But since we're doing this, let's go ahead and do the other side as well, just so that all that's done, and then we'll be through with all the purging. All right, we got all of our hubs ready to go. Notice I covered them up. This is just so that there's, you know, no dust or anything floating around gets down in there, but we're ready to install. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our outer bearing right here and get that ready to go. Is it not womanly?
That's absolutely not what I meant. Anyone can do this.
Abby just likes the manly stuff, huh?
I do.
Okay. All right, so we're ready to go on there. Okay, so we got the washer and the nut ready to go. So now we just stick it on there. Just like that. All right. Now you can take your outer bearing here. Push it on. Get rid of this extra grease. Got the washer. And then the nut.
I'm nuts about you.
I'm glad you are. I'm glad somebody is. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do this to that hub there as well. That way we get both of them on there. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to torque it and then put the dust caps on there, okay? All right, let me get our bearing. Washer. And the nut. All right, now we can torque them. All right, so I'm using a 1.5 inch socket and a 1/2 inch drive torque wrench set to 25 foot-pounds. We're gonna torque these to 25 foot-pounds while we're spinning it. All right, and that'll be the proper torque on it. Once we get it torqued, then we'll back off. There it is right there. It just clicked. It's hard to, the socket's a little too big to get in there, but we got it. There it is. We got the click, so it's torqued. Now what we're gonna do is back off of the nut slightly, anywhere from 1/6 to 1/4 of a turn. So like that. And then we're gonna check the end play on it. We're gonna measure the backlash in the bearings, and we want it between 1 and 5 thousandths backlash. But before we do that one, let's go ahead and torque this one. Torque it a little, spin it. There's the 25. Spin it. Check it. See, there it is. There's the clicky. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and back off of it. Just a little bit. All right, now we're gonna set up a dial indicator on here and pull it, push on it, and then measure our total indicated movement there. All right, so we've got a mag base with a dial indicator. The mag base is mounted to the hub here where the wheel pulls up to. The stem of the indicator is on the end of the axle stub. All right, And what I'm doing is I'm pulling and pushing, and we want to measure the movement of it in and out. And this is where you're wanting 1 to 5,000 backlash, and those are specs given by Timken. So me pulling and pushing it, I can tell that I still have it tight. Now if you rotate it, you're going to get a little movement. But once you stop oscillating it and you pull and push, I'm getting less than 1,000. So what that's telling me is that I'm still a little too tight on the nut here, so I need to back off a little bit more. So I'm just going to remove that. Back off a little bit more there. And then I'm going to set it up again. All right, I loosened it up some. Now, if you watch the needle there, I'm going to push in. You can see it moves to approximately 2.5. When I pull back, it goes to about 1.5. That's technically within the tolerance of what we want, 1 to 5, but I want to see if I can tighten it up just a skosh. All right, when I push and pull, I'm getting 1.5, between 1.5 and 2 thousandths right there. So that is where I want it, right there. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this one's good right where it's at. All right, so we've got both of these torqued and adjusted so that we have the proper end play. Last thing we need to do for the hub here is install our retaining clip. So what this does is it keeps the nut from turning. You've got a flat on the inside that lines up on the flat of the axle, and then these go around the nut and it keeps it from turning. So you just snap it on without your glove, preferably. Okay. See if I can just bump it on there. There we go. All right, see, so you can see the nut moving just a little bit, but that right there will keep that nut from backing off. All right, we're going to install the dust caps now. Make sure it's knocked all the way up against the flange. All right, that should be good to go. Yep. Look at that. So it's 2.5, 1.5. So we got about 3 to 3.5 thousandths in play right there.
It's perfect, right?
Yeah, that's in the target. Approximately 3 thousandths backlash. That's within our 1 to 5 thousandths tolerance right there on our preload on our bearings. All right, so all 4 of the hubs are now reinstalled correctly. So the last thing is obviously to put the wheels on, but I'm gonna clean them really well first before we put them on there. The other thing I wanted to point out, I'm not gonna get any video of this, but Abby can show you what I'm talking about. On our MoriRide suspension system underneath here, this is what we had installed last year. So we have a grease fitting here. You have them on all the shackle bolts there and the end. Those are considered wet bolts. I'm gonna clean all this real well, get that grease off, and I'm gonna pack all these with, I'm gonna pump some extra grease in there and do that while we're under here doing this maintenance. Get the wheels clean, get them mounted on, but this is pretty much done. And we'll, I don't even know what to say now.
We're gonna, yeah, you have done a very great job on this.
I don't like doing this kind of work anymore. I just don't like being on the ground on my knees like this,
But
and especially working in the dirt.
You're gonna feel much better once we get our Kodiak on the road.
This is gonna give me a better peace of mind once we're on the road.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you can do it yourself, and that's what you're trying to show.
Yeah, anybody can do this. All you need is some tools.
And one of these.
You got to have a knee
your
pad there
knees.
too, yeah. All right, well, this is going to conclude this video of removing your axle hubs and bearings and installing new ones. And this should be good to go. I feel really good about what we did, about the specs that we've got this torque to, and measuring our backlash. It's a much more precise way to check that versus the common back it off and just rotate it with the tire and feeling it and guessing that you're right. So we've got good quality bearings installed, good quality bearing races, new seals, and fresh new grease in there. These guys should be good to go. So I hope that we're not going to have any more problems with our bearings.
Me too.
And we're going to have a good solid foundation to roll on as we're heading across the desert real soon.
Yes.
But I'm going to go ahead and finish up. We got to do all of our grease points over here for our shackles and our MoriRide suspension there. Get the wheels clean. And one last thing that we're going to be doing as far as our drivetrain right here is that tomorrow I'm going to be going up to Tires Etc. and we're having a brand new set of tires installed. I put out a video a couple years ago, I think it was. We installed the Goodyear Endurance ST tires. Those are really high quality, made in USA trailer tires that work really well. And since we had a mixed match set of tires on here, because I had to replace one of them, and the other ones had been on there for 2 years, I decided I was ready for a brand new set of tires in order to help give me even more peace of mind that we don't have used tires on here. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. But I just wanted to show that anybody with some basic tools and basic mechanical skills can do this kind of stuff themselves. It's not necessarily easy. It's more of a frustrating job than anything. But anybody can do it. If you have an RV, these are the kind of things that you have to look out for and take care of. If you don't want to do it, you can call your RV company and they do this stuff too, but just make sure that you stay on top of it. The RV place recommends that you take it in at least once a year to have everything checked and inspected, and they will get down here and they'll inspect these hubs for you to see if there's any kind of problems. But just stay on top of your preventative maintenance so that hopefully you, just like I hope we do, will have a trouble-free ride when we're heading out to the Southwest to go see those beautiful national parks.
Yes.
Yep. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we're going to be seeing you again very soon. Hey, just a quick follow-up from yesterday. We've got our new rubber installed. We just got back from Tires Etc. here in Pensacola. Kenny and the crew there always do a good job. They got all this done in less than an hour, so they get you in and out very quickly. So the Goodyear Endurance ST 225/75 R15 is what we have. These are very high quality, made in USA, trailer rated tires that I would recommend for anybody that's running an RV. These are really good size tires for the 5-lug 15-inch wheels. I'm not sure of all the other sizes that they might have. They are a 10-ply tire, and we've had really good luck with them in the past, and I'm glad to see them back on here. So just a good quality tire. I got all of our Mori Ride suspension cleaned up. Everything's re-greased, and it is ready to go. I even had the guys there at the trailer shop check my brakes there, make sure that they were adjusted right, so they've got those adjusted there as well. So hopefully all of our powertrain, all of our drivetrain here, I mean, is going to be good to go for the long haul. And we are getting excited to getting out on the road. So that is done. I got plenty more things to do. I want to get the Kodiak nice and clean and polished up and finish getting this thing ready for the highway.
On a side note, this is pretty hot.
Is it? Cut. No longer G-rated.
I'm sorry.